Hi, this is Stacia, and I wanted to share a game that I played on chess.com. Pretty interesting game. I faced the Tarrasch Defense in this game, and yeah, I historically have a lot of trouble with this opening. And although I play it better than I used to, as you'll see, I struggle with the complications at times. So I thought it would be worth going over. I played the white pieces, rated 1552, and played somebody named kossuvissy, rated 1549. So about the same rating. I go d4. We'll just get to the Tarrasch. They go e6, knight f3, knight f6. And here I play g3, and this is the Catalan opening. And typically black will play something like knight b d7, bishop b7, bishop b4 check, something like that. But in this case, my opponent went c5. And so we are transposing into a Tarrasch defense. Not a favorite of mine. So, okay. So here you should take the pawn, which I do. And the primary reason being, we're going to try and saddle black with an isolated pawn, or maybe hanging pawns. So they take back. Now we just want to develop bishop g2. And here he went knight c6. This is totally fine, just developing. And I go knight c3. Still theory at this point. And now bishop e6, which I thought was slightly inaccurate because really in an isolated queen pawn position, which he could easily get after d takes c5, really want this bishop to be more active, not just defending this pawn. So I think it would be better like on the square or the square. In fact, a lot of times the bishop's really annoying here because if you try and push it away, it comes back here and it's just annoying. So I'm not a fan of this, although this is still theory as well. It's a more rare line, but it's still theory, so I'm sure it's fine. All right, so I castled. And now theory wants h6, which is interesting. And I think it's because this move can be annoying for black. I'm just creating this pin, and the bishop, if the bishop comes to stop it, then we take here. The bishop has to come back, and black loses tempos, essentially. So I think that's why h6 is good here. But my opponent didn't play that. They played bishop e7. And I recognize that this is probably inaccurate because now I can take this. And they've lost a tempo playing bishop e7. So they take it back. And now the way my chess coach taught me to proceed in these types of positions is to play the knight a4 lines. I really like his suggestion. This is a fun line to play. I mean, it's still difficult for me, as mentioned, but it's better than the way I used to play it. So I like to go knight a4 here. And we're out of theory because bishop e7 wasn't an actual move. But this still reminds me of the positions I get, except I think black's down a tempo. So knight a4, and what I'm doing is I'm attacking the bishop, of course, tempo move. But we're going to play bishop e3 and rook c1, and we're going to take over the c5 square. So that's what we're doing here. All right, so black retreats, very sensible move, and now bishop e3. So at this point in the game, I'm still just playing moves that I've seen before. I'm not doing anything new yet. Black castles, that seems very reasonable. And now rook c1, and I think this is fine. So we have very nice control over the c5 square now, as you can see. And yeah, and I would say the other thing I'm thinking about is you really want to watch out for black pushing this. So if I can, I want to blockade, which this knight is in a good position to do that. So is the bishop. Of course, knight's better. Um, but we also just want to keep an eye on that for sure. Okay, so here my opponent played queen a5. Interesting move. Computer doesn't like it so much, but it made me uncomfortable because he is pinning my knight to my a pawn, and I do have the knight defended by the queen, but it's just a little uncomfortable, I guess. So I can't really play knight c5, which I normally would, I think, because he'll grab this pawn. Or so I thought, because you know what, looking at it now, I can play that, right? Maybe. I think I can play it. Okay. But we'll look at this complication in more detail. In the game, I go knight d4, which I felt was a good move. It does a number of things. So I'm offering a trade, which trades are going to be, trading down is good for me in this isolated queen pawn position. The more, if we trade all the pieces off, this pawn is probably just going to be weak. And then white should be a little bit better. But the way it is now, it gives black a lot of activity with control over these squares, and his pieces are more free. My bishop's kind of awkward in front of my e-pawn. But okay, so knight d4, offering a trade, blockading the pawn, and opening up my light square bishop just a little. So I feel that's why that move was a good one. And now rook a to c8. And okay, again, that feels very sensible to me. And here, I made a decision that I don't normally do. I decided to take on e6. I wouldn't normally, see, to me, this is sort of an improvement for black because, in a way it is, because although I do get the bishop pair out of this, which is kind of why I did it, but I think if I take and they recapture with this pawn, I think this hanging pawn structure is slightly better than the isolated pawn structure. But the downside for black is that this e-pawn is weak and I have bishop h3. So that's kind of why I did this. I thought with the pressure on the weak pawn and the gaining of the two bishops, this move was actually good. And turns out that is true. It's a top computer move, which I'm happy to see. Too bad I can't play an entire game well, though. All right, so bishop h3. And this is really uncomfortable. In fact, I think the only sensible move is king f7. So defending this. But I would call that a concession, that the king has to move out in front of the rook like that. So, okay. And I think white's slightly better here. The only thing I didn't like is I still have this pin going on. All right, so it's move 16, and I make my first mistake of the game. And my next move throws away the advantage that I have currently because I play the move bishop c5. So I want to use this c5 square, but this is the wrong way to do it. Black can play b6 here, and they can play, well, in the game they play knight e5. Which is actually a mistake. But also queen b5 is a move here. And even knight e4. And I think after these moves, black is actually just fine. But the thing is, I have a better move in this position. A couple better moves, actually. So if you'd like to, pause your video and I'll explain what the better moves are. Okay, so a move I was heavily considering was the move a3. I don't like playing slow moves like this in positions like the Tarrasch because it's so exciting and tempos can matter quite a bit, or some people call it dynamic, I guess. But a3 is actually correct because you're just undoing this pin, And now the knight can go into c5 comfortably without worrying about this pawn. But a3 doesn't have to be played. You can also play bishop g5. Not sure I totally understand this move. Maybe the idea is to... Yeah, actually, I'm not totally sure. Let's have a look, shall we? So bishop g5. And if they go knight e5, we go bishop f4. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. And then h5. That one's a3. Okay, so this seems pretty nuanced. I'm not sure what's going on with that move, but it's certainly possible. And yeah, the move that I really like here is knight c5 because so instead of occupying with the bishop, we're going to go knight c5. And yeah, the knight was pinned. Come on, computer. Okay. So the knight is pinned, but not really, because if they take the a pawn, we have this move. So we're hitting this e pawn again. So it's a tempo move, really, is the point. And on top of that, we're hitting the b pawn as well. So I think they pretty much should take here. And after taking, now we play bishop takes c5. And notice that this is now a tempo move on the rook. So if the queen still doesn't have time to take the a pawn. And so I wonder if we could play a3 now. I'd be tempted. Well, it's black's turn. Let's see. Yeah, rook f to e8 is the move. Just sidestepping, and now we have time for a3 still. So pretty interesting that we can play this way. Although the computer still only gives white a slight advantage here. So pretty interesting. Yeah, and actually I'm going to look at this one more time. So knight c5, bishop takes c5. Yeah, instead of a3, we even have queen b3. And I kind of like this because this diagonal looks really uncomfortable, and I'm even considering moves like e4 now. All right, let's get back to the game. So sorry, I sometimes I obsess over my mistakes and really dive into these positions, but maybe that's healthy. So okay, so he goes 95 here, and I wanted to double my rooks next, but after 95, I can't really do that because there is this attack on my bishop. So I thought this was a good move by black, but turns out it's not. So again, I had a better move. I take the bishop, but there's a better move here, and it's this tempo move b4. And I really need to start seeing critical moves like this because it is a critical move in this position. It's the best move. It's basically an intermezzo and a tempo move. And after the bishop or after the queen moves, say to b5, well, now we can take here. And after king takes, we jump our knight into c5 and we're anchored by a pawn now. And the queen is no longer hitting the a pawn. So this is quite nice. And of course, knight c5 is strong because we have these same threats. So I love the move b4 here. And yeah, my latest thing is to make flashcards of the positions where I miss moves. And then I go through my flashcards like 3 or 4 times a week so that I can recall these types of ideas. And I really feel that the flashcards are helping me improve and just get a lot of these things that I'm missing like in my head so that next time I won't miss it. Okay, back to the game. Now I'm going to try and go faster after we get through this middle game stuff, which is actually most critical and very interesting. I'll go through the endgame kind of quickly, even though it's also interesting. Okay, so yeah, I play bishop takes e7, he takes with the king, and now my idea was queen d4, and the problem with my calculation is I missed that black has a very nice defense here. They can just play knight e, or they can just play knight c6, and I didn't I didn't calculate this move. And what's sad is that this is actually a blunder, and white has a winning move here. But this move freaked me out because it's a tempo on my queen, and my queen's defending my knight, and I just felt like I don't have a lot of squares here. I thought about playing queen to d1, which would still defend the knight, but that just felt sad to me, like I wouldn't have any advantage after that, which is kind of true. Um, so in the game, I play queen c5 check, a very forcing committal move that is totally wrong because, well, first of all, I want to keep the queens on the board. Black's king is in the center, and after the queens are gone, this king's actually good here. And it's harder to attack the weakness. And on top of that, after this trade, black has the move knight d4, and this is really troubling for me. So he's threatening a fork, he's threatening a check here. I really wanted to play this, but yeah, this would just lose because of the fork. I'll just show it. Check. And this is not good. In fact, I even think he has like this move, right? Oh, I guess I could still defend, but this is losing for sure. This type of thing. I think I'm just lost. So after I realized I couldn't play after I realized I can't play e3, then suddenly this move is a huge problem. But let's go back because white has a really interesting and winning move in this position. So after knight, or I'm sorry, after queen c5 check, I'm losing because of that knight d4 move. But where where else can white move the queen in this position? If you'd like to pause your video, do so now. So queen d1 is an option, and I'd say this is playable, but not the best. Queen f4 is also playable, and this move looks a little weird to me. My computer keeps freezing up. Come on, come on. And it's just a weird, well, you'd have to really calculate this, I think, because of the discoveries. This looks really unnatural to me. But I think if black does something like this, then we can go queen g4. And this is a pretty big threat. But the best move, and I actually posted this on my Twitter as a problem, is queen e3. And what a cool move this is. Should have saved my variations earlier, huh? I did look at all this. So queen e3 drops the knight. And I think that's the main reason I didn't really consider this move. But these are the type of moves that I really want to start considering because it has a bigger threat than losing my knight, which is taking here with check. And taking here with check also will force the king to the back rank, and then we're hitting this rook. So, for example, black really can't take this anymore because we'll go check, king d8, and check. And not only are we material up, but we just have a dominating position here. I mean, this is just crazy, right? Like king e7, we can even take on b7. Now we're hitting the knight. And if he goes king d6, defending, yeah, this just looks really bad. I think we can take here now. This hits the rook. Okay, so black's lost. I think we'd agree on that one. So, okay, Queen e3. Can black do anything to defend? Well, the answer is yes. I think probably the best move. I thought about this, and if black plays here, we can actually just take the knight because we're still on here, and I think they would have to defend this way. But after this, knight c5. And this, again, is lost for black. That's just too many threats. So, okay, that doesn't work. And probably the best move is queen e3, knight here. And after this move, yeah, I think we can just go knight c5. We're hitting the b pawn. We're attacking the knight. We're threatening this because everything is still on this. Black doesn't have this because it's guarded by the queen. Sorry, it's a lot of arrows. So basically, yeah, after this move, I'm really baffled by this. The computer's giving queen d2. What is going on with that move? Oh, queen d2 for black. This move, very interesting. I was like, why would we put our queen there? All right, so yeah, and here we don't want to trade though. I think we go queen a3. And that looks really good. And white's just better here. Certainly a lot of pressure. And I feel like there's another move here too. So after, whoops. So queen e3, knight here, knight c5. Yeah, I was thinking rook f6 makes sense, right? Just defend this pawn. But then we take the knight and we win a pawn here. Yeah, and the king steps away, but can I take that now? I guess not. I was wondering if we could take here. Oh, we actually can't. Ouch. That one would hurt. So yeah, so many tactics, right? So okay, I think you see the idea. Like, even in this continuation, white's just better. We can even play b4 here. Notice that the knight is actually pinned. And I think white's just got a lot of threats here. Very comfortable position. As long as we don't take this pawn, I think we're okay. All right, so let's go back to the game. And that was the main thing I wanted to share, is this crazy freaking middle game and this star move, queen to e3. I think is just a beautiful move. One that I wish I would have considered in the game, but just I sadly didn't. I didn't even consider dropping my knight. So, okay. In the game, though, I go queen c5. And this move is a huge problem. And I thought for a while here and just defended the pawn because what else? But I knew I was worse already. The knight can already come into e4. But he played b6. Seems reasonable. And I go knight d3. And now I like his move. Rook takes c1. Notice I cannot take with the rook because knight check would, again, fork everything. So I have to take with the knight, which is not ideal at all. And now rook c8. And here I make a huge blunder, f3. I wanted to bring my king up, but actually black has a winning move here. This basic tactic. That would lose, so that's really unfortunate. Luckily, my opponent didn't play that. He played h5. Although I actually like this move by him because he's threatening this pawn break, which I think makes my bishop worse. All right, but I go knight d3. The rook comes in. King f2. g5, threatening g4. And yeah, this is a very interesting endgame. And without going into it too much, I can tell you that white's actually okay here now. We have the move king e3, which is a tempo move on the knight. And after, say, knight b5, we can now untangle a bit by playing the move rook c1. I really like this because I think it's important to see this structure with the knight here, guarding the pawn, and guarding the rook. And yeah, there is this check, but I think we can just come back. And now after something like this, I think white's actually okay here. So I really wish I had seen this really nice defense. But in the game, I did not see that. I played a3, wanting to push my pawn and just get them out of the way of attack. But this is wrong. Black can actually just bring their king up if they want. But he played g4. And now I took here, which is okay, I guess. But white is clearly worse here. Yeah, and now my bishop that was eyeing his weakness is now not as good. It's eyeing this now. And really, he should just bring his king up now, but he came here. I do trade, which I think is good because my bishop's not so good. And now let's see what he did. Takes with the pawn. And now knight e5 would actually be the best move because we'd be attacking this pawn at least. But I came here. Now he wins a pawn. And I can't play king e3 anymore, but I do because I play king e3. And now the problem is the rook has vacated this square. So we have a fork. And this is played in time pressure, so I try not to be too hard on myself when this happens. And now I'm lost. So rough game. Very interesting dynamic game. And I'll just summarize what happened real quick. I'm going to turn the engine off. So here, it's the Tarrasch Defense, and we had theory for quite a while here until this move bishop d6, which was played. Only slightly inaccurate, though. I got to play the knight a4 plan of the Tarrasch Defense, grabbing the c5 square. And I faced this move queen a5, which, although inaccurate, does create this uncomfortable pin. Knight d4 was good, and yeah, and then this interesting trade actually works here because the e-pawn is weak, and we do gain the bishop pair out of the position. We force the king to f7, which means we should keep our queens on the board. And here's my first mistake. This bishop move just kind of trades things, and I think that's not so good for me. Also, queen d4, if I was going to play queen d4, I think I needed to see queen e3, which I did not. So after all this, oh, also, missed this tempo move b4. In these middle game positions, I think it's best to be mindful of every tempo move that is available, and that is something I failed to do. b4 gives white a nice advantage. Okay, and then here, the star move, queen e3. So it's sad I didn't see that because after this, and this good move by my opponent, knight d4, I'm just worse and I'm suffering. And I did have a way out of this. And I should have lost right here, right? f3. And I thought I was completely lost here. And that's another lesson too, is a lot of times when you feel completely lost, a lot of times there's tricks and there's ways out. So you should play hard, fight hard, really look for a mistake by your opponent. And in this case, yeah, I had this move, king here, which I love this plan, rook c1, like I was saying. And I would have been okay here and maybe get a draw. Okay, but instead it went to this endgame where eventually I get forked. Sadly. And that was it. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and this game, and I love hearing from you guys. So any comments, suggestions, questions, all of that is very welcome. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.